Hi puzzlers! Today I have another large piece count puzzle for you. It will be the 9,000 piece Disney Museum puzzle by Ravensburger. The puzzle comes in 2 bags, with each bag containing around 4,500 pieces. I did not put both bags together, I did each bag individually, so there will be a second video. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the second part next month. I started with the right side of the puzzle, which in my opinion is the more difficult side. If you start with this one, because it contains the flooring, which is quite difficult, and it had more of the green background than the other half. So that puzzle or that side is a bit more difficult in my opinion than the other one. As always, I start with sorting the pieces, which is rather easy for this image. You can rather easily identify the different Disney characters and put them in different piles, as well as the floor tiling with the brown or the green background or the white part at the top. It's easy to sort these pieces and create those individual buckets that you can then start putting together. I started out with the smaller pictures of the Disney characters and worked my way towards the more bigger ones in the end. One of the more difficult images for me was the Ursula one, especially also because quite some pieces were missing, as well as with the Tinkerbell image, and I had put them in together with the Jasmine image. So once I did this image, there were quite some pieces that I could put in the other ones before and fill in some holes. And I think some pieces also went into the bucket with the background, so it took some while until I had the pieces to really finish the image. Another a bit more challenging image was the Dalmatian image, because it's mostly white and grey and only has some black lines. That took also a while for me to figure out and put together. Also with the white pieces, some of them were in the pile with the light part at the top, so there were also pieces missing that I needed to put in or could only put in later. At one point, one of my cats demanded some attention, which I was obviously not giving her enough. So then she tried to walk away and stepped on the outside of one of the boards, which was not fully on the table. So because of the shift in the weight, the whole board slid down the table, and with it all the puzzle pieces that were on it. Fortunately, the damage was not too big. You could easily pick the images back up from the floor and put them on the board. And then I kind of collected all the single pieces that were on the floor and lying around. Also, some of the pieces slid under the kitchen, so I need to take off the board at the bottom and use a lighter to see all the pieces that went under the kitchen and take them out. But then yeah, I put the pieces back together. It was not too difficult and didn't take too much time, and I continue puzzling. After finishing the Disney images, I started on the edge and put this together, and then worked on the light part at the top with the white pieces, which were quite easy to put together because it's not that huge of an area and you can get this done very easily. And one more time, another of my cats joined the puzzle and again stepped on the outside of the board, so it slid from the table a second time, and the second time I needed to collect the pieces from the floor and put them back together and then continue on. So I obviously hadn't learned my lesson. After that, I worked on the floor tiling, which is quite a challenge and really difficult because even though you have some lines with the floor, it's still too confusing and you can't find the pieces by just looking at them. So I started sorting them by shape and then just worked my way through all the pieces till I had the floor finished. But it was a bit frustrating because it takes quite a while to do the flooring. Once I was done with the floor, I needed to get back to sorting because I had put all the frame pieces in one bucket and now I needed to resort them and try to differentiate between the different frames, which was not so easy in the beginning because if you're not familiar with the pieces, you don't necessarily pick up on the subtle differences between ones. So I still had a kind of bunch, a miscellaneous bucket with pieces that I didn't really know where they belonged to. Only going on with puzzling the frames and looking more and sorting more through the pieces, I recognized more patterns that I can collect together and put together the frames after a while. I also made a pile with all the frame pieces that still had some little part of the actual image of the Disney images on them, and I first put those in before I worked on all the frames of the different images. And also another thing that I did when I got stuck on one frame and I couldn't find more pieces or got tired of putting or working on this frame, I just moved on to the next one. So most of the time I switched between the different frames and worked on each of them after one another and changing between the frames and which one to work on. And sometimes then you recognize that one of the pieces in the pile belongs to a different image and I put those aside, and then either at the end of the day before I put everything away or at the beginning of the next session, I took those pieces that I knew belonged to a different puzzle and tried to put those in. It is very satisfying to see all the frames and all the pictures coming together, and the more pieces you put in, the more you can arrange and even connect the single pictures with each other, and it's really fun to see how the whole image comes together. Before I then started working on the background, I also sorted out of the background pieces all the pieces that still had some frames on it and tried to find where they go, which also took a while. It's not that easy, but definitely before tackling the all green background, that was something I did. With the background in general, it really helps if you resort the pieces from the background by luminosity, and I started out with the more lighter pieces because they're just a few areas where they go, and it's rather easy to find the correct shade and put them in. And then I worked my way through all the rest of the pieces. The most difficult ones to me were the darkest pieces, and that took really so much time to find out where they go. I also again started sorting the pieces by shape and then just working my way through it and try to go through the pieces until you fill out the holes in it. And again, I switched a lot between the different areas, because if I got stuck in one area and it got too boring, I got too frustrated, I just continued working on another one, and little by little you put in all the pieces and the pieces get less and less, and you can finish the puzzle. In the end, I cheated a little bit because with those bigger puzzles, the piece card repeats at some point, and once you have put together one of the sides, you can use this as reference for the other side where the card repeats. And I did this in the end with the inside, and I just put both boards over each other, and I could just look at the board that I had already finished and at least look which shape of piece I needed to finish the puzzle, and that saves so much time to finish it in the end, because it's just a lot of green pieces. So the right side is done. It's a really nice image. It's a lot of fun to put it together, even though the background and the flooring is quite difficult. It's really nice to see the whole picture come together, and then when I put it down on the floor to actually see what everything looks like is really pretty, and it was so much fun. The most fun part about the puzzle to me are the Disney images and the Disney characters. They are a lot of fun to put together. Unfortunately, you are very quickly done with those because they do not take up that much space within the whole image, but those are definitely the most fun to work on. Fortunately, with the second half of the image, there are even more Disney pictures on it, and they take up more space of the image. So I think the second half will be more fun than the right one that we did in this video. After I've done the puzzle, I stacked them together over each other, and I will spend quite a lot of time under my sofa while I attempt putting together the second half. And that's what you will see in another video, because it's already a very long video, so I split them up in two. So the next video will continue with the second half of the puzzle, and then also how I put the whole image together. So don't forget to subscribe for the second part of the Disney Museum puzzle next month, and see you next time. Bye!